Oh, there he is. There's the artist.
Not tonight.
There's the guilty party.
Yikes. Yeah. Put on the spot.
Really? Basically with two babies.
Well, this was the first piece for the show here, and I was using a part of a rat-tail cactus, and after I had drawn a small sketch of it, it reminded me of a landscape itself, even though it was only a 6-inch piece of a cactus. So I was working with that and trying to make it seem a little bit like a landscape, perhaps from the Southwest or a deserty region.
When I saw it, I was surprised because I hadn't seen her use colors like that before. Mm-hmm. The last show was much more tropical in color, lots of greens and intense colors. And this,
like that one here.
Yeah, like that.
Which of necessity is green because it's a skunk cabbage leaf.
Or the painting over here. It's more, those are more the vein of the previous. Much more foliage, and this just seemed like a very surprising image.
This is the last piece in the show, and again I was using a part of a plant. This was an iris, a wild iris that I had pressed and dried, and so I was interested in the way some of the forms were flattened because it had been pressed, and the colors, although they were of this dried up plant, they had an interesting range of color among the pieces, the parts of it.
So all the paintings drawn or some of them from your imagination?
Well, most of the paintings come from either a sketch I've drawn out in the landscape, such as this Salmon River estuary, which was drawn from the top of Cascade Head, looking down at the area where the river empties into the ocean. It was an oil crayon sketch about this large, and then I made it into the larger painting. Or I collected other objects like the piece of the cactus or the ladybugs, the dead ladybugs that were in the cabin I was staying. Or the piece of pieces of seaweed that were together there. And those I magnified after I'd done a small sketch. Then I made it even larger into the painting. But it interested me to think of the small objects as landscapes also. And so the vertebrae there from a deer or antelope I found form kind of a mountain when the bones are put together. These are collected from southern Oregon, from around Heart Mountain. I picked up some bones there, and to me they become rocky forms similar to the actual cliffs that I used in some of those other drawings there, paintings of Angel's Rest. and Fort Rock.
What are you trying to do with your paintings?
Well,
is there something that you're trying to express?
I guess I'm showing in something like this how the small forms of the bones are very much similar to the shapes and forms that you would find in the rocky cliffs too. So I'm finding a commonality in these different parts of the world, I guess you might say, or the way things relate to each other, even in a physical sense, the way they resemble each other. So here I have a small piece of bark
Let's go here.
from the spruce. This is a small piece of bark which would have come from a large tree such as that. And the small piece of bark I collected when I was out drawing the other scene. But to me this has a resemblance also to the rocks that I've drawn out in the landscape also.
So you collected the barks and then put them, group them together?
Just
Just one chunk of bark.
it's just a little piece of bark about
I
3
see.
inches
I see.
across, a small piece of bark, but I looked at it carefully and greatly magnified it into that painting. But it came from something very small.
So do you use a magnifying glass?
No, I just look at it. Just look at it and see what shapes I can recognize. But I do try to copy exactly the way the ridges flow along, and a little bit of lichen that was stuck on the bark and that kind of thing.
Did you have a question, Mike?
No, I just wanted to comment. I think her initial idea for the show was to have pairs of paintings, of the landscape and then a small detail of something, and to show a relationship. But it seems like there's more interconnections across the paintings than just within bears. Like the bones and the rocks and the bark all have they have formal resemblances to one another. That isn't.
I really like this painting here. Can you talk a little bit
Okay, this one I called Ode to Skunk Cabbage because it's a little play on the odor of the skunk cabbage, to call it an ode to skunk cabbage, but also I was working from the Shakespeare sonnet that contains the phrase, everything that grows, and in all of these works I've studied some aspects of things that grow or change. So this one, I was noticing when the skunk cabbage was blooming in the forest that as the leaves unfurl, they do that in a spiral form. So the leaves just kind of open up in a spiral shape. You see many other spirals in nature, but I hadn't known this about the skunk cabbage. I noticed it when I was out hiking, and so I was kind of celebrating that fact that it has a spiral shape to it. And then I just do like the beautiful yellow of the skunk cabbage, so I have it up there also. And then the other piece down there is a skunk cabbage leaf too, the one we saw that was very green. But in that one I was looking at it very closely and studying the pattern of the veins on the back of the leaf, because they're kind of amazing how they're not symmetrical and they form these very interesting shapes, almost like a form of writing.
Well, thanks. It's a great show.